I mean, they're delicate, you can break them. But these are go back 1920. I'm looking to see what other dates we've got in there.
Hello and welcome to Land Grant Today, sponsored by the College of Agriculture and Food Sciences. I am Cynthia Lamb, your host, and today we are excited to welcome Dr. Wills Flowers, Professor Emeritus at Florida A&M. And Dr. Flowers is going to share with us about a very important aquatic insect collection housed here at Florida A&M University. It's world-renowned and has international as well as regional significance. Dr. Flowers, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll start out with asking you how this all began.
Well, it actually began before my time here at A&M. I came here in 1975, and by then the collection was already well along. It was developed by Dr. William Peters and his wife, Janice Peters, and he had students. Dr. Pescador was a student back then, and there were several other students. I actually met the group when I was a grad student in Wisconsin a couple of years previously, and we met in a regional conference in Cincinnati.
So this collection, I hear, is quite extensive,
Yes.
One of the largest in the world. And you have been here for 34 years plus. I also understand that you're conducting research in Ecuador for the past 2.5 years, and that part of the collection here has impacted their studies in Ecuador. Could you share with us about that?
Well, yes, one of the big items and activities of interest in Latin America, Central and South America is the use of aquatic insects in biomonitoring, and that's actually very well developed here in the United States. And Florida is one of the leaders in developing the protocols for biomonitoring. And so when I was working in Ecuador, they knew of my background, and there was this huge interest in having me teach some of the biomonitoring protocols to them. And the biomonitoring basically uses the aquatic insects as kind of indicators of the water quality. There's certain insects like mayflies, in our collection, that are considered indicators of good quality water, or they're very intolerant of different kinds of pollution and disturbance. So that when you have a stream fauna that's rich in mayflies, you can be fairly certain that the water's in good shape. But
so it's a good thing.
Yes,
to see them.
Yes. These biomonitoring protocols are a lot more detailed, and in order to do them properly, you've got to be able to identify the insects in the streams. And our insect collection has been one of the key collections in the world in mayflies, and mayflies happen to be in many areas the dominant aquatic insect.
And that is amazing. We've had this collection housed in Perry Page on campus within our College of Agriculture and Food Sciences, and I never knew, on the 4th floor. It is quite a large collection. I understand there are over 1 million specimens, ranging in size from microscopic to pretty big. I mean, yeah. I would be afraid if one of them came upon me. And there are several methods of storing them that allow for research. Could you share with us some of the methods of storage and about how far back they date and how the storing procedures have changed over the years?
Well, originally, the entomologists tried to mount everything on pins like a butterfly. And the earliest collections of aquatic insects, they concentrated on the adults and tried to mount the adults on pins. It's not a very successful technique with most aquatic insects because the bodies are soft, and what you usually wind up with was this shriveled up little mass of tissue with 4 wings sticking out in the middle of a pin. So it's much better to put soft-bodied insects in alcohol, store them in vials of alcohol,
Okay.
and that's the generally the preferred method in aquatic insects. There's some of them, like there's another, we also have a pretty huge collection of chironomid midges, that's the blind mosquitoes.
Okay.
And they're, and it's perfectly permissible to store them in alcohol, but to study them, they need to be studied at the microscopic level. So you mount them, you have to mount the various parts of them on slides. So most of our chironomid collection is mounted on slides.
Oh, and there are several types of specimens, and I did a little research and I realized that calling them types, there is actually more to that word than meets the eye.
Yeah.
but having the different types is very important in terms of researchers coming from around the world to be able to identify the types that they've found and matching them with the right type. For the benefit of our viewers who may not be familiar with the scientific term of the use, type, could you share with us what that means exactly?
Okay, well, in any kind of classification, scientific classifications, since Linnaeus, you designate, when you describe a new species, you designate a specimen as the holotype, and you base your description on that specimen, and then you put that specimen in a institution, a museum, or someplace that's accessible. So in the future, if somebody is reading the description and they have a question with the wording, or they don't understand it, or they can go back and look at the holotype and compare their specimen with the holotype. That becomes more important the more we discover, and the more new things we find. Frequently the latest specimens differ on very minor points from the other specimens, and so you have to go back to and especially in insects, you have to go back to the holotype to figure out what exactly it is and how exactly some other specimen might be different. This holotype thing is not just insects. It's mammals, birds. Places like the Smithsonian have huge bird collections with the holotypes of birds, and Linnaeus also designated a holotype for the human species. He wrote, "Know thyself."
So it's taking it back to the root and
Yeah.
to the origin.
Yeah.
And we can only know what's new if we can compare it to
Right.
what it was before,
Right.
and
Yeah.
see how it evolves, what changes in the environment have affected it. And that brings me to another question. You told us that the water quality can be determined based on the amount of aquatic insects in it, or the type. And I have read that some of our collection includes aquatic insects from Lake Erie before pollution
Yes.
really wreaked havoc on the lake. And now those are being used to study how the ecosystem is improving, or if it's improving at
Right,
all.
right.
So tell me, how are these insects used in determining the health of the environment?
Well, you mentioned one way you can track the history of an area if you've got a series of collections taken over time. Like I say, the pre-pollution Lake Erie, and there are other places that are continually collecting, and we might compare our Lake Erie material to what they got up in Pittsburgh, and which I understand is doing much more contemporary work with the lake. In biomonitoring, all over the world, they're developing different protocols, and everybody's, different places have got their own ideas exactly how you calculate it. But it's basically, you look at you make a collection of the aquatic fauna, which is going to be mainly aquatic insects, and you identify and tabulate all the different kinds you find, and then there are people have different favorite formulas to plug in that data and come up with a number which corresponds in some respect to relative water quality. Florida's got one of the best regarded in the world, the Florida Stream Condition Index. And that's basically what I was talking about I've been in Costa Rica and I've been in Ecuador, and I've talked up the Florida Stream Condition Index, but there are other different protocols developed in Europe, for example.
I see. And so it's good to know that in our own backyard, we're well respected across the world. Yes. In different countries. I understand our collection rivals any Smithsonian collection in terms of the...
Well, in terms of mayflies.
Mayflies.
Yes, we don't.
The largest in the world?
It's probably, I would say yes, it's the most extensive in the world. Once a collection gets a reputation, it can grow when other specialists die and leave and pass their collections. And we've had a couple of from former specialists in aquatic insects deposit their collections here at FAMU, like for example the late George Edmonds out at Utah and Louis Berner down in Gainesville.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting news, and I want to hear more. And when we come back, we're going to continue this fascinating discussion on a one-of-a-kind collection of aquatic insects housed here at Florida A&M. So stay with us. We'll be back with more Land Grant Today.
Keeping our water clean is good for all of us. When we each do our part, amazing things can happen, and they can happen right in your own yard. A beautiful and easy-to-build rain garden is a great place to start. Learn how at tapwater.org. Tap. Every drop you lose, nature finds.
114th Infantry Company, Iraq.
The memories are all blurred.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
The words, they're hard to find.
I came back a different person.
I wonder if she's better off without me.
You just feel alone.
You gave all to the cause of freedom. Now it's our turn to give our all to you. It's free and totally confidential. Reach us at operationnotforgotten.com. We are here.
And welcome back to Land Grant Today. I am Cynthia Lamb, and I am here with our distinguished guest, Dr. Wills Flowers, Professor Emeritus at Florida A&M University's College of Agriculture and Food Sciences. Dr. Flowers, you were telling us about the importance internationally, nationally, regionally of our collection of aquatic insects. And you mentioned your research in Ecuador. And that interests me because it provides an avenue for our students as well to conduct research. And could you tell us how that helps our students and how the research that you're working on involves Florida A&M's collection?
Well, we have, actually I've been going to the Central and South America for over 25 years and on programs that originated here at FAMU with the International Programs Office. It started out years ago with USDA had a program for faculty to go to a third world country, take language classes and make professional contacts. And that lasted for a couple of cycles, but I got hooked up with the biodiversity people in Costa Rica. And more recently, it still exists, it's a big consortium with the CRISP program, which is now headquartered at Virginia Tech, and I first started going to Ecuador as a specialist and taxonomist in that program. Unfortunately, as far as Ecuador goes, that program was shut down because it was funded by USAID, which President Correa considers a subversive organization.
Okay,
so,
that's unfortunate. But you are still able to conduct research,
yes.
And you're actually going back, right?
I will be, but I've concluded my actual contract work. The government of Ecuador has a program called Prometeo, which is to try to attract retired professors to go to Ecuador and share their expertise with different universities.
Okay.
And that's what I was doing.
That's great. And they're discovering new types or new specimens?
New species.
New species. And our collection is very important in that effort, I understand, because without our collection, they wouldn't even be able to have something to compare the new species to.
They wouldn't, yeah, they wouldn't be able to, they wouldn't have a base for comparison because we have, over the years, we've had a number of specialists from South America visiting us, and they're being able to use our collection to advance their research. We just had a woman from Brazil who was here at FAMU while I was down in Ecuador. We kind of crossed paths, and we've had Dr. Eduardo Dominguez from Argentina, who has been extremely active in aquatic insect taxonomy in South America, and he's visited us several times, and we're negotiating another Brazilian student right now, and we've had a number of others. And International Programs has also has had other students in different areas of agriculture coming here.
That's awesome. So not only are scientists and researchers from around the world coming to our university to view, to study, to look at all of our specimens in aquatic insects, but our students are also able to experience research in other countries through what we have here at Florida A&M.
Yes.
That is very good. Most students don't know that. Well, they do now. Could you tell us how might a student be able to get involved with the research here on campus if they were interested in studying entomology and working on aquatic insects?
Well, for aquatic insects, they would contact Dr. Rasmussen, who's the, also to talk to Mrs. Peters. Also, if you really have good, strong international desires, that our international programs offices.
Okay, so there are several avenues.
And these different programs, they open and close, and one's runs for a few years and disappears, but then something else comes up, and so there's always if you don't find what you want right away, then check back in a little while,
and there'll be another door.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Mrs. Peters, Janice Peters, is the collection curator.
Yes.
And she is in the College of Agriculture and Food Sciences. So that is good to know. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Flowers, for your time with us, and thank you for that. It was very informative.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. And we'll be right back with more Land Grant Today. Stay with us. You don't want to miss this.
Imagine a landscape of distinct natural beauty, a place where bees and butterflies move among the blossoms and birds find food and shelter, where plants can thrive on rainfall and native soil and fertilizers and pesticides are almost unheard of. Now, imagine this place is your own Florida home. Visit plantrealflorida.org and learn how to add native plants to your landscape and bring home the beauty of the real Florida.
Our fugitive has been on the run for 90 minutes. Average foot speed over uneven terrain, barring any injuries, is 4 miles per hour. That's a 6-mile radius. I want checkpoints established at I-95, 495, and over at Route 66. What I need from each and every one of you is a full target search of every gas station, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, hen house, outhouse, and dog house in that area. Your fugitive has just cashed in his 401k plan, and all he had to do was roll it over. Go get him!
Learn about rollovers and protecting your financial future, and choose to save.
You can't mess with a big dog.
This is the French translation, so this dates to, they say, 1682. The original was earlier, or 1683, not sure. The original was in Dutch. That's one of the first good descriptions of mayflies. If I can take that apart without damaging, I'm not going to open that. Okay. They are
Truly historical.
These have been reproduced, obviously, the original, but this is an original. We just got lucky with this. I'm looking for something here.
That's a good one.
Okay, that's a picture. Actually, that's a crab, but it gives you a good picture, and I don't damage anything to open it.
Hello and welcome back to Land Grant Today. And my name is Cynthia Lamb. I'm your host. And we are continuing our discussion on aquatic insect research at FAMU's College of Agriculture and Food Sciences. And our distinguished guests today are Dr. Pescador, Manuel Pescador, Professor Emeritus, and Dr. Andrew Rasmussen, who is also a professor at our Center for Water and Air Quality. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here today. And we're continuing a very interesting subject about a unique collection of aquatic insects that exists within our college. And I understand that you are still involved, both of you are still involved in ongoing research to help improve our collection. We've been talking with Dr. Flowers about some of the research conducted, but there are some interesting things going on with the species of special concern, and I would like either one of you to share with our viewers what exactly that is and how important this collection is to not only Florida, but the world.
Go ahead, Andy.
Okay. It's a pleasure to be here, first of all. And yes, what you're saying is true. There's a lot of interest now in conservation biology and protecting species that are important in terms of ecosystem function and overall protection of insect biodiversity. And so environmental agencies are actually developing lists of species that are of conservation concern that they're worried about and that they want to try to protect their habitat. So in order to do that, they need to know more about where those species are located and how strong their populations are. So that's where we come in, and we can go out and do surveys of these different insect species and find out where they occur and how healthy the populations are. And if the populations are actually being threatened by human development and things such as road construction or pollution of one sort or another, then those species can actually be listed, federally listed as a federally listed or endangered or threatened species. And so we want to try to avoid that and protect habitat so that doesn't happen.
Thank you, Dr. Rasmussen. And we definitely need to keep our water bodies healthy, and these insects aid in doing that. So keeping the population thriving is a good thing. I have another question, and either one of you can answer on the perspective. What is your perspective about what makes our regional aquatic collection important? And you talked about the importance of protecting those species that might become endangered and keep that from happening. But the collection that we have housed on our campus as well serves as a very unique collection to help research scientists from around the world. And we also have publications, I understand. And could you tell us some more, tell our viewers some more about the importance of that?
Yeah, well, I think Dr. Flowers mentioned something about our worldwide mayfly collections. Andy, Dr. Rasmussen, and I have been doing this inventory of aquatic insects in Florida, aquatic insects of Florida and in neighboring states. And FAMU probably has the largest collections of aquatic insect fauna of Florida. And the important thing of that is that all species of mayflies, caddisflies, stoneflies, and the alderflies, they're all represented in our collections.
Wow.
And if people are really interested in knowing what these insects are, where to collect them, when to collect them, we have written some identification manuals that more or less include not only how to identify them, but the natural history of these organisms.
And we have one of the publications here as well.
And the critical thing about this natural history of the organisms that we have is, it is so important to know when to collect them, or when they are in the air, or when they are in the water, and how to collect them.
So they're in the air too. Well, they have wings. Some of them have.
The adult stage, we call them the aerial stage.
The aerial stage.
Yeah.
Yes, and I understand that they spend a great deal of time in the pre-adult stage, or nymph stage, is that what that's called? And then they come out of their shell, so to speak. Could you tell us about some of the ongoing research that projects that you're involved in, and what's new, what's exciting going on today?
Yeah, it is.
Well, I have a number of projects related to caddisfly research, and one of the interesting projects I have right now is I've developed a website that's actually a distributional database for all the caddisfly species known from North America. And so in that database I have all the literature records of where all the different caddisfly species have been collected from the different U.S. state and Canadian provinces. So it's an excellent resource. People can go online and actually find out what species occur in their state, or in their, if they're from Canada, in their province or territory.
Oh, wow, that's excellent. So not only do we have the collection housed on our campus within the College of Agriculture and Food Sciences, 4th floor, but now it's available electronically in the database that you have created. That is awesome. And
we're still working on that to try to capture more of that data and make it more available to people.
So it's ongoing. Well, I could sit here and talk with you for hours, but unfortunately we're running close to running out of time for this episode. But I want to thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing about your research.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.